Is your brain so utterly cooked that you had already scrolled down to the comments section before this video about fixing your attention span had even started? Do you return a blank stare when you get back to the office or school on Monday and someone asks you how your weekend was, silently flabbergasted that anybody could remember something so far away? If you're feeling personally attacked as a result of me enumerating a few signs of the Oxford Dictionary's word of the year, then you might just be in the right place. Because today we're going to talk about how you can finally unfuck your attention span and get back to feeling something other than the low hum of anxiety every single time that your face isn't lit up by a screen. Over the course of this video, which I'm gonna go ahead and bet that you can't watch in full screen mode at 1x speed all the way to the end, go ahead and just try to prove me wrong. I'm going to share 6 of the habits that I've started enacting to get control of my attention span back, start healing my relationship with time, and continue moving in the directions that are actually meaningful to me. If you can actually stick with me till the end, I promise you that you're going to walk away from this video feeling more prepared and with the tools you need to actually start improving your attention span. Look, we all know that it's your damn phone. It has always been your phone. And I know you've already watched at least one video that's telling you that all you need to do to fix your attention span is get off of social media and stop looking at all of these screens. But here's the thing. There are countless gigantic tech companies, all of whom are employing PhD researchers and the smartest human psychologists in the world to ensure that you feel completely helpless in the call of just watching one more reel. And this whole personal development, self-help, mindfulness space, in my opinion, can focus way too much on making you feel like a failure for not being able to control your screen time. And I don't think that's quite right. Of course, you are in charge of the decisions that you make. But at the end of the day, the deck is stacked so far against you, it's not even funny. It's a lot like gambling. No matter how good you are, if you play long enough, the house is always going to win in the end. So what can we do? There's a lot of tools out there for this, but I personally highly recommend the Freedom app. They haven't sponsored this video, and I get absolutely no kickbacks for mentioning them. I just really do think it's the best tool in the space. With the premium subscription, and I actually wouldn't recommend the free version, which is kind of a bummer, but all that said, with the premium version, you can set up recurring time blocks. Mine are set from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, during which automatically Freedom will kick in and block access to any and all apps and websites that you've configured within that recurring time block. And it does so across all of your devices. You don't ever need to think about it. You don't turn it on. You can't unlock it if you're using lock mode. It is just blocked. Now sure, do you need to spend some time and effort actually configuring this thing in the first place? Yes. But if you're genuinely ready to make a change, if you're sick and tired of the way you spend your time, it's a very small price to pay to start getting your attention back. And if you really want to play on hard mode, have somebody else set up your password and configure your time blocks for you so that you have absolutely no way of getting out of it once it starts. And I can't even begin to tell you how freeing this has been for me. I've blocked all social media, my email, Reddit, Slack, basically anything with even the faintest hint of the ability to distract me from what I actually want to do. I've also disabled infinite scroll on my YouTube homepage, deleted social media apps off of my phone, and gotten rid of all of the icons on my phone home screen so that when I pull my phone out of my pocket, I actually have to look for the thing that I want. Humans are actually terrible at leveraging willpower. We have an extremely finite supply of it, which countless studies have shown, and yet the self-help space continues to always talk about willpower and discipline. In my opinion, if you're using all of your willpower just to resist the urge to scroll, you're never going to be able to leverage what limited willpower you have to do the things that you care about doing. By offloading the decision-making process like this and making it so the things that distract you aren't even an option, you're guaranteed the most important part of fixing your attention span will happen all on its own, and that's getting bored. If you're constantly being inundated with high-calorie brain junk food, the more labor-intensive deep work that actually moves the needle in the direction that we want to go and gives us purpose and meaning will never be given the time and space that it needs to actually feel worth doing. It's actually this kind of paradoxical thing, because I truly believe that all of us always know in our heart of hearts exactly what it is that we want to be doing. But we've been so conditioned to expect instant gratification and instant stimulation all of the time that what we capital W want to do either is so buried under all of the other static of the signals we're receiving that we don't know what it is, or at least we feel like we don't know what it is, or it just doesn't feel worth it because we have this constant just drip of easy access to junk. According to our brains, at least, why would we exert effort towards something meaningful when the stimulation our brain craves will arrive freely of its own accord? And I'll tell you how our brain is going to answer that question every single time. It's going to scream at you, more videos, please. But this kind of inner knowing of what matters to you and what you would rather be doing doesn't ever go away, no matter how much you distract yourself. If our brain being entertained was the only thing required for leading a meaningful life, we would be living in like the golden age of humanity. And in fact, I actually think that was the promise that the internet age said it was bringing us. But that just isn't the case. We need to be exposed to deep, meaningful work and connections in order to feel satisfied and fulfilled. It's not just an equation solved by stimulation. When I first set up the Freedom app I just told you all about, I was horrendously bored, like staring into space, pulling out my phone screen to look at nothing because there was nothing there, and just not doing anything about it. Like that level of bored. I started to experience kind of severe mood swings as I tried to contend with this boredom, and I also dug up apps that I hadn't used in so long that I hadn't even thought to block, like perpetually refreshing Coinbase, even though I don't even have any crypto anymore. I was doing anything I could to try and get some kind of quick hit of stimulation. And then the weirdest thing happened. In the absence of junk food, I got hungry for a salad. The backlog of work tasks that I had let start to accumulate felt easier and easier to do, and I started to work through all of them. I could look at my unappealing blank YouTube homepage, or I could get back to making videos for other people's YouTube homepages, which is actually meaningful to me. Our brains are effort-saving computational machines. They are extremely efficient, and they always look for the most efficient route. By creating an environment where that easy access to entertainment is not available and boredom is inevitable, our brains will eventually start to recalibrate towards doing the things that we actually want to be doing. You can't watch a video on fixing your attention span in today's mindfulness-obsessed world without having the word meditation thrown in your face. And so I'm sure you already saw this one coming. And there is a reason that everyone talks about it. It's just maybe not the reason that you think it is. To use a Dr. K-ism, when meditation was first discovered, it wasn't used to get from negative 100 to 0. It was used to get from 0 to positive 100. It's such an incredibly powerful tool, not because it gets rid of anxiety and depression and mental chatter, but because it gives us the ability to sit with all of those things and recognize that there is nothing to change about them. I'll give you an example that maybe makes this make more sense. Think about the last time somebody did like your biggest pet peeve in front of you. Did you have to consciously decide to be annoyed, or did that annoyance just naturally occur within you? Here's maybe another one. Do you even think about picking up your phone anymore? Or do you find yourself reaching for it instantly, the exact second that whatever was previously occupying your time disappears? Learning to notice this experience of things arising and disappearing on their own is a critical tool in gaining control back of our attention, because it gives us a means of tangibly practicing sitting with our boredom, sitting with our discomfort, and not doing anything to alleviate it. Reaching for your phone or for any sort of easy distraction is a reflex that we've cultivated purely to get away from dealing with and feeling the things that are uncomfortable. And this is actually the power of meditation. It's a means of learning to see that there's actually nothing to fix. Your brain is constantly going to brain. It's always going to run wild and do its own thing. And it's always going to try to convince you that doing anything to expend effort that it doesn't want to expend is not worth doing. And it'll just try to get you to return to the infinite void of your TikTok feed. And if you've never tried to pause in the moment, I bet you just do that. And then you look up and it's been 4 hours and you can't believe you wasted another night and wrecked your sleep schedule again. And you feel ashamed, but then you don't want to deal with the shame. So you go right back to looking at your phone, and this cycle repeats itself over and over again. In regards to learning how to meditate, because I know that's something that a lot of people are really intimidated by, I think the Waking Up app with Sam Harris and crew is by far the best tool out there. They do a really good job of explaining what meditation actually is and how to truly leverage it in your life instead of just using it as this kind of like sugar-coated mindfulness solution that happens in so many other places. They also offer free memberships to people who aren't able to afford one by just reaching out to their customer service team because they truly believe that what they have to offer is so valuable to the world that they don't want to exclude anybody. And I think this is amazing, and it makes me so proud to pay for a subscription every year because I know it's contributing to somebody else being able to get one for free. I will give you an exercise to do though, just in case the idea of a stunning 8K resolution meditation app rubs you the wrong way. Set a timer on your phone for 10 minutes and close your eyes. After you finish watching this video, because you're gonna watch it all the way to the end, remember? Resolve to not move a muscle for the entirety of those 10 minutes. Not one. If you have an itch, don't itch it. If you feel the urge to curl your toes or stretch your leg, don't. Only move if you find yourself in true physical pain, and then move only enough to get the discomfort to go away and return to not moving a muscle. And if even hearing me describe this practice gives you anxiety, just notice that too, and then lean into it. Don't let that prohibit you from starting. That's the point. And this one in particular, more than any other meditative practice I found, is extraordinarily useful at helping us get through the just barrier around doing uncomfortable things. Books are the single greatest format of media available to us. Not just for improving attention span, although for that I do think they are unparalleled, but in general. They've done a lot of research on this subject. You can find specific examples and like the documentation for that research in Johann Hari's amazing book, Stolen Focus. And there is nothing else that engages our emotional circuitry in quite the same way as a book. Books literally train our brains to be more empathetic because they force us to try and project ourselves into the situations of the characters that we're reading about. And it pulls out references from our own experience and compares and contrasts what we've been through with the experiences of the characters. And it just has this really unique ability to change something in us. It also requires tremendous focus to make anything out of it. Have you ever found yourself reading a book and then before you know it, you're just kind of scanning the words on the page with your eyes, but really you're thinking about how that time at Thanksgiving Aunt Bethany told you about this thing that made you super uncomfortable and you can't stop thinking about it, and then the next thing you know, you snap back to it and you have to go back 2 pages because you feel like it might be important to understand why the character is getting mauled by a bear. You can't multitask and read a book at the same time. Did you ever have the experience of like staying up all night or way past your bedtime as a kid reading a book? Do you remember what that felt like and like the magic of getting lost in the story of a character that you couldn't wait to find out what happened to them? That's not an experience uniquely relegated to childhood. That's available to you at any time just by allowing yourself to sit with a book in an undistracted way. Personally, I don't think there's a replacement for physical books. This is probably gonna make me sound like a pretentious asshole, but unless your brain is truly more rotten than the apple that's been on your counter for 3 weeks, or you have like an extremely long commute, I wouldn't recommend an audiobook or an ebook. Something about the physical act of going to a bookstore and picking out what you want to read, not based on the Goodreads score or after you've consulted Reddit to see what the internet says, but just because it looks good to you. And I'm actually gonna make a different suggestion than maybe some other self-help channels are going to make, and that is I want you to only read fiction and just read long, winding fictions, working your way up to epics like Shogun or Lord of the Rings. Read old books and read award-winning books and read books that make you look up words in your own language. I really believe that we need to detach ourselves from this idea of reading for outcomes, to fix something in ourselves. The point of reading is just to get lost in a story, to let it work its way through you and to come out the other side with just a little bit more humanity and empathy in you. Blaise Pascal once said that chess is the gymnasium of the mind. And having tried to learn how to play chess this year, I can confirm that he was correct and I am doing the chess equivalent of curling 5-pound dumbbells. Whether you choose from the incredible board games available to us today, like Wingspan or Gloomhaven to name a couple, or you learn how to play Magic the Gathering, which is how I spent most of my time and money and effort this year, or you simply shuffle up a deck of classic playing cards and play with a loved one or play some solitaire. There's something uniquely stimulating and liberating about playing physical games without a screen in sight. And of all the things I've recommended to you so far in this video, or that I'll recommend after this is probably the one that I feel the most passionate about. Like, nothing makes me feel more restored and more attentive than a marathon gaming session with my friends, and not looking at a screen like video games gaming, but like complex, interactive, deeply thought-provoking board games or card games. I could wax poetic about Magic in particular for a very long time, which I'm sure I will at some point in a future video because it is effectively my entire personality at this point, but there's just nothing like it. If chess is the gymnasium of the mind, then Magic is like the old Soviet boot camp training room where they're handing out juice like Pez dispensers, just getting everyone jacked out of their minds. Because if there's any game where the options are potentially infinite, it's probably this one. As you attempt to manage the state of your own board, and the other 1 to 3 players you're playing with also attempt to manage the state of their board, and then you respond in turn to the things that they do, all while you're trying to manage and remember the 30 years of cards that have been printed so that you can have an effective game. What's more though is it's just damn fun. It brings your friends closer together in so long as it doesn't absolutely tear them apart. A single game can run anywhere from 30 minutes to multiple hours, and it requires a lot of attention and focus over the span of that time to have an effective game. While it's by far the least conventional advice I've offered over the course of this video, it is probably the advice I feel the most strongly about. It also continues this thread of like doing things that aren't tied to outcomes that still stimulate and require our focus and attention, because I do think that sets 2 birds free with 1 key, to use an old saying that a mentor gave me. This is a newer one that, much like Kristen Bell in Nobody Wants This, experiencing her first Shabbat, I was extraordinarily resistant to implementing at first. But every Monday, my girlfriend and I go to a restorative yoga class with a commitment that prior to that and after that class, we will not engage with any screens unless it's absolutely necessary. She cooks us an awesome dinner, we spend like an hour just talking about how our days went, and then we head over to this class, get our stretch on, and come home and just kind of snuggle up with a book or with our Magic playmats and enjoy each other's company for a couple of hours without feeling the pressure of this external world and all of this technology raining down on us. And let me tell you, the sleep I get on that Monday night is unlike anything I've had in a really long time. And kind of paradoxically, it ends up setting me up for so much more success and productivity of the other 4 days I have in the week where I'm just sitting in front of a screen for work. I think that may be the most difficult part of adjusting your lifestyle to better serve your attention span in today's world, is that it goes against everything that we are told is the right thing to do. If you've ever tried to tell somebody that you're not on or don't use social media on a first date, you know what I'm getting at here. We've been sold this idea that digital connection and more stimulation, more entertainment is going to be the answer to our problems, and I think it's actually the opposite. I think it is the cause of our problems. It poisons our minds and destroys our ability to be at peace with what we have at home and what we have right in front of us. By just carving out this little bit of sacred space in your routine that doesn't involve being connected to the outside world or to technology, I think you can really reconnect with yourself and what is important. We evolved to walk. Like, for tens of thousands of years, we spent the majority of our time every day walking. And this is a gross oversimplification, but if you think about things like EMDR or tapping, which are used in therapy to process grief and trauma, those are just ways to mimic the kind of bilateral movement that occurs with walking or running. And the reason this is so effective is our brains are designed to process stimuli and emotions in this alternating fashion through both sides of our brains operating together. Here's the kicker though, no headphones, just you, your thoughts, and if you happen to have a furry compatriot who needs a little bit of outdoor time, you can take them with you as well. Start at 10 minutes and see if you can work your way up to an hour. It feels like I've heard a lot more people mentioning shower thoughts recently, and as this like unique experience they have where they get this epiphany that helps them solve their problem. And I think the reason more and more people mention shower thoughts specifically is because it's like the last bastion of hope we have for being disconnected from our technology. Basically, nobody is bringing their phones into the shower, and please don't tell me otherwise in the comments section. I want to believe that's the case. But there's nothing unique about a shower in this capacity. Anything that disconnects us from the stimulation for long enough to let our minds wander freely is going to do the same thing. And by taking a walk outside, it allows you to, one, touch grass, 2, move your body, which is always good. And 3, again, disconnect from the screens. When I'm struggling to come up with a new YouTube video idea, or I'm working on a difficult problem for my day job, or just like an interaction or something happened that left me feeling a little bit sideways, almost nothing has been as useful to me as taking the time to take a walk disconnected from everything and just process it. And again, I cannot stress this point enough. Going for a walk doesn't have a purpose. It doesn't serve a goal. It is just a thing that we can do to enhance our experience of well-being, and that goes so far. And I think that so many of our problems are tied to this need to do everything performatively and productively instead of just for what it is. Much like willpower, brain power is also a finite resource. And in this world of many of us being abstract thought workers, we spend a lot of our brain power every day, and having time to physically move in nature allows us to restore some of that brain power so that the next time it's time to do more thought work, we're ready for it. I'd be willing to bet that you remember and long for the days of being 16 in somebody's basement, cracking up with your friends for no reason other than just the stupid thing that somebody said. And I bet you remember and long for that far more than even your most productive day in your 9 to 5. Because productivity and focus in and of itself, it's not a means of acquiring a healthy mind. That can only be attained by giving your mind room to breathe and to play. So often we think all of our problems would be solved if we could just do more and achieve more often. What I'd ask for you to consider, though, is that maybe it's actually the opposite. Maybe the fastest way for us to do more and achieve more is by doing less. If you've made it this far, congratulations, your attention span is already improving, and you've proven me wrong from the beginning.